episode 15 of Book Nerd Paradise, where we get to know an author as they tell us one of their favorite quotes, read from their work, pose a trivia question, and give away a book or two. Hi, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. As I've mentioned previously, ebook of Book One is available on Amazon for free download. So if you haven't done so already, please be sure to get yourself a copy. Today, we welcome YA fantasy author February Grace as our guest. February is a writer, poet, and artist from southeastern Michigan. She has created characters with clockwork hearts, told the romantic tale of modern fairy godparents, put her own spin on a classic tale, and now takes readers on a journey back in time in her fifth novel, Wishing Cross Station. She sings on key, plays by ear, and is more than mildly obsessed with colors, music, and meteor showers. She's worked for Disney and been kissed by a Klingon, which she claimed was unprovoked. Not so sure about that. But more remarkable is that she went blind. While she wouldn't recommend it, she would recommend the doctors who helped partially restore her sight. She considers each day a gift and is eternally grateful to all the amazing people who have helped make her writing dreams come true. Please join me in welcoming this inspiring author, February Grace.
Hi, everybody. So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
February, as we get started, I have got to ask this question. Is February Grace your real name, or is that a pen name?
It is a pen name, and actually the inspiration came from a couple of places, but the short version of the story is that February Grace was actually a character that I wrote in a collaborative writing group for a while, and then when I decided I wanted to get published and I knew I needed a pen name, I really couldn't think of one that fit what I wrote better than that, so I just decided to steal it. So I stole it from one of my own characters, and it's been my pen name since 2008.
That's awesome. I love that name. That's just perfect. So let's start this episode with a giveaway. February, what will you be giving away?
I would like to give away a couple of ebook copies of Upon a Time, my fairy tale retelling, and also a signed copy in print.
That's great. February's going to be reading from Upon a Time, and I can't wait to hear what this book has in it because it looks really good. So to enter to win, be sure to leave a comment after you've watched the episode. Just a really quick comment about what you thought about the episode, about the book, about anything related to this episode, and that will enter you. Liking the episode will not enter, but leaving a comment will take care of it. So February, you'll be reading from Upon a Time so that we can get a feel for the book. Can you give us a brief synopsis?
Yes, I'd actually just like to read you the back jacket copy here. It says, blacksmith's apprentice who would be a knight, the heir to the throne at death's door, one woman who would save them both if she could. Charlotte was number 64 in the second group of young hopeful maidens intended to meet the prince at a grand ball in his honor. That introduction was not to be. She returned home to her tiny village and her visions of a future limited by it without any warning of the drastic turn her life was about to take. Soon she would be fighting against the odds to help keep a gravely wounded stranger alive and waging war with her own heart as he stirred feelings in her she'd never known.
You've selected a favorite quote. Would you tell us what it is and why it's a favorite?
My favorite quote is from a character called Thomas, who's a major character in the novel, and the quote is, "Beautiful villains are the most dangerous of all." And the reason that's my favorite is, in this book, I really challenge the fairy tale myth that beauty equals good all of the time, or most of the time, in most fairy tales. And we really turn that on its head, and the villain is a very good-looking, charismatic person. The male heroes are physically challenged in some way, or challenged in being disfigured. So that quote really stood out to me, and it just proves that you can't judge a person's insides by their outsides.
As I mentioned, you'll be reading from Upon a Time. Would you briefly set us up for the portion you're going to be reading and then go ahead and read?
As I mentioned in the synopsis, Charlotte has attended a very famous ball that you may have heard of from another fairy tale, which is what this book is based on. And this takes place actually 2 weeks after the ball is over, and they've been scouring the countryside trying to find the girl who lost her shoe. Search for Slipper Girl ends, Cinder Maid to become future queen. The proclamation was nailed to the largest tree in every village square, announcing the prince's betrothal. Well, good for them. I hope they'll be happy, Charlotte said, reaching into her bag at her waist and pulling out an apple for her horse. Poor old Beau was still expected to keep up his daily duties, even though he'd barely recovered from the long trip to the palace and back for the ball a fortnight ago. Still recovering as well, it seemed, was Charlotte. So he's going to marry her then. A familiar voice spoke nearby, and Charlotte looked up to see her friend, the young apprentice to the village blacksmith. She had known Thomas since they were both too small to climb the tree they now stood before. It became a contest between them as the years went on, until work took the place of playful time. Now neither could remember when last they'd raced to that tree and grasped bough after bough until they overlooked the whole of their tiny village. Looks that way. They never even made it out this far with a slipper to try it on anyone. Not that I'd have bothered. I knew it wasn't mine. Charlotte shook her head. Imagine, leaving a party in such a rush you'll lose your shoe. She reached out as Thomas repeatedly tossed an apple he'd brought with him into the air. She snatched it away and held it out toward Beau. The horse gobbled up the fruit and whinnied his approval, nuzzling his nose into Thomas's hand. You're not really disappointed, are you, about, Thomas let the question hang in the air. He hadn't liked this thought of the prince selecting a bride based upon one initial meeting under such strictly controlled circumstances. How could a man ever expect to find a woman to be his partner, his equal, in such a way? Someone with the strength to stand beside him and rule the people justly. For the life of him, Thomas couldn't fathom the idea, and he was glad that, for Charlotte, any dreams of becoming royalty had ended the night they began. About the prince? Charlotte shrugged. I didn't even get a very good look at him. They had him sequestered in another room most of the night, and then he just danced the golden-haired maid past us all and was gone. I know nothing of him, nothing of his character or spirit. So I can't say I'm disappointed I didn't get the chance to marry a stranger. Her voice trailed off. But Thomas looked away, examining his rough-hewn hand as if he'd never seen it before. The idea of a different life, just for a moment. She paused, and he looked at her again as she seemed to try to shake the thought from her head with vigor. No, not the life I ever thought I wanted before that cursed invitation arrived, and not the life I would dream of again now that Mother's old gown is back in the trunk where it belongs. She looked up at the sky, noting the position of the sun overhead. Aren't you due to be back at the smithy? Old Rowan will take a stick to you if you're late. He hasn't done so in years and wouldn't dare try now. I'm much bigger than he is. Charlotte laughed momentarily at the thought of ancient Rowan shaking his walking stick at the young, strong apprentice. Would be a sight to see. Still, I should get back. He'll be waiting for his lunch, and he especially hates for me to be late when fetching it. He indicated a basket draped over one arm. So I bid you good day, Charlotte. Shall I stop by later for a bit of practice? It's been far too long since I've had the pleasure. It's been far too long since you've enjoyed beating me so easily, you mean. You've clearly got the advantage in strength and size. Ah, but that's the best part about fencing. There are also advantages in agility and speed, and you would best be in both those aspects with your eyes blindfolded. Maybe. At least if you come by tonight, there may be some mother's pie for you. She's up to baking pies again. Charlotte's mother's health was a fragile, unpredictable thing, and Thomas never assumed. She was this morning. Charlotte smiled, though the corners of her eyes betrayed a sadness her lips attempted to conceal. Apple. My favorite. Thomas returned her smile. I shall come round at 7. I will bring wine. Then father will be as happy to see you as mother. Charlotte bowed her head slightly. Good day, Sir Thomas. His face reddened. I'm not a knight now, and you know I never shall be. Charlotte knew the reason he believed so, but did not speak of it now. He was self-conscious enough as it was. Of course you will. The finest knight the king has ever been served by. A tremendous rumbling sound stopped Charlotte's speech. The ground beneath her feet began to vibrate. She raised her hand to her forehead, shielding her eyes from the glare and staring into the distance. Thunder? How can there be thunder on a day clear as this? That's not thunder. Thomas's brow creased with worry. Horses. He'd barely spoken the word when the din of trumpet blasts joined the approaching thud of hooves. Urgent news from the palace? Charlotte asked, noticing a crowd was beginning to gather around them. Did the royal princess-to-be lose another article of clothing? No. Thomas shook his head once and grasped hold of the basket. This is wrong. I fear something terrible has happened. By the time the royal party arrived in the village of St. Fleur to make their proclamation, most of the residents were present and waiting for whatever word would come. The man on the mightiest horse and wearing the largest hat raised a trumpet to his lips. He blew 3 piercing blasts, making Charlotte wish she were standing nearer the back of the crowd. Hear ye, one and all. Each word was spoken more slowly than the last. The king is dead, as is his son and heir to the throne, our beloved prince.
Ooh, well, this one sounds very interesting. Okay. Somehow I don't recall that happening in Cinderella.
No, not the version that I saw growing up.
So I guess they'll have to buy the book, won't they? Our guest author last week, YA fantasy author Lee Goff, posed a trivia question for us.
Where and when did the first American witch trials take place? And the answer is Wethersfield, Connecticut in 1647, which was 45 years before the Salem witch trials.
So February, you have a trivia question for our listeners. What is it?
I do, and I'm going a bit old school today, so I'm hoping they've read the book, but if they haven't, they should go get it and read it. In Douglas Adams' classic sci-fi novel, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, protagonist Arthur Dent passes out upon hearing one thing in particular no longer exists. What was that thing?
Ooh, great question. I love that.
Thank you.
So be sure to subscribe to Book Nerd Paradise so that next episode you'll find out what the answer is if you don't already know. So February, are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yes, I would like to thank all the readers that have supported me through my 5 novels and my Wattpad experience. I've had amazing experience with support from readers over there, and just everybody who's taken the time to read, buy, comment on, email me about, or have anything to do with my writing. You guys are the thing that brings it alive. It's just words on a page until you read it and bring it to life. So I'd just like to say thank you to everybody.
Yeah, I would agree. As an author, that reader support is just, your words are just words until they read them. So that's great. That's great. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know February Grace a little bit. I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. Book One, as I mentioned, Blast of the Dragon's Fury, is free for download, the ebook on Amazon, so please be sure to get a copy. Our guest next episode will be YA fantasy author Lauren Lynn, sharing from her novel Vision, Book One in the Secret Watchers series. The synopsis reads, "Welcome to the world of Owen Ryer and the Secret Watchers. Owen is given glimpses of horrible things that have happened and is driven to fix them, but it's a dangerous life, and he's been told he has to keep it a secret. Homework and chores are bad enough when you're in 8th grade, but now this? He already hated school, and now he must stand up to school bullies and even bigger ones out in the world beyond the school's doors. Now it's a race to see if Owen can master his special ability before the Dark Watchers destroy him or turn him to the side of evil and chaos." Ooh, that one sounds like another good one, I have to say. So look forward to that episode next Monday.
Click the button to subscribe to the Book Nerd Paradise YouTube channel so you don't miss upcoming authors, giveaways, and answers to trivia questions.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday.